Good afternoon. This podcast is aimed at helping you build your resilience, support yourself, and explore practices that are going to be able to support you during this difficult time. So you're very, very welcome. And anything I suggest today is just an invitation. So it's a participatory project, but feel free to sit out if you don't feel like participating. So let's start. We'll start by just taking a seat and just arriving in this moment. So without much further talk, join me as you become aware of your sitting posture. And so sitting with the lower back supported, so you can put a cushion or a pillow behind your back to support your lower back. But as much as possible, sitting with your upper back upright and yet peaceful. Resting your hands on your lap so that there is no effort on your arms. If possible, with palms facing up. If, like me, you tend to carry a lot of tension in your shoulders, just rolling your shoulders a couple of times. And then just allowing your body to settle. Bringing your attention to your feet, so sitting with your feet square on the floor. So if you're wearing high heels, you can kick those off. If you're very tall, maybe sitting with a block or a couple of cushions under so that it lifts your seat. But if you're short, maybe putting a couple of blocks or cushions under your feet. So the idea is to adopt a posture that is ease and peaceful. So you're not having to strive, you're not having to think about it, but also quite an erect profile that shows the intention you bring into this. When you're ready, closing your eyes softly or just parking your gaze on the floor so that again your eyes are always taking in information, so to reduce the stimulus. So when you're ready, softly closing your eyes, just becoming aware of your body in this moment as you sit here. Maybe noticing the contact of your feet on the ground. Your thighs on the chair. So that contact with the earth, that solid feel of gravity. So just exploring it as though you're a little child and you've never noticed that you can feel your feet on the ground. So exploring this contact, this gravity. Inviting a gentle curiosity and a kindness. Allowing things to be just as they are, so not trying to change anything or understand anything, but just exploring just that raw sensation of contact of your feet on the ground, thighs on the chair. I like to think of this as bringing the curiosity of a baby kitten, never judging, but just really curious, bringing that softness. What is it like in this moment to feel the ground? Maybe now moving the center of your attention to the contact of your clothes on the body. the back of your shoulders, front of your shoulders, on your thighs. Again, exploring this raw sensation with a gentle curiosity. And now moving your attention to the gentle touch of air on your face, on the palms of your hands. This really, really ethereal, almost imperceptible sensations. And as we sit, sooner or later, your mind is going to wander. Whenever your mind wanders, that's okay. Congratulate yourself for noticing. That's what minds do. Gently noticing where it's wandered to and bringing your awareness back to the sensations of contact with the ground, with the clothes, or with the air, your touch with the world around you. Inviting gentle kindness to yourself. So not being critical or getting cross, but just gently noticing the mind is simply just doing what the mind has evolved to do. Now when you're ready, gently opening the awareness to the sensations of sound. Noticing the pitch, the volume, the texture, whether it's continuous or comes and goes. Again, imagining you're like a little child, and sound has no meaning, so just exploring the raw sensations of sound just in this moment. Noticing how we can zoom into one particular sound, or we can hold the whole of a soundscape in our awareness. When you're ready, returning your awareness to the sensations in the body. So again, the contact of our feet on the ground. Our thighs on the chair. Also opening to any other sensations in the body. Maybe also just noticing the sensations of breath. And if there are any difficult sensations, holding them in the kindly awareness. Maybe just softly breathing into them and breathing out from them. not wanting to change them or wishing them to be different, but just gently holding them in kindness, just noticing. Alternatively, you can just return your awareness to other sensations, maybe the feet on the ground, the touch of the clothes, or the touch of air. When you're ready, softly bringing the practice to a close, and just taking a moment to reflect. Okay, so just taking a moment to reflect. What did you notice? Maybe you could just write down what you noticed. Noticing any tendency we have to be critical or to be judgmental. So as much as possible, trying not to label good or bad or be critical, but just noticing what came up for you. And this reflection is a really important aspect of mindfulness because it allows us to make adjustments, to learn, to grow, to just notice what comes up habitually for us. The reason for this is because our mind is like a very powerful computer. So a lot of the time the mind is working in the background and in a mode of mind that we call driven doing. So if you just hold on and just try and recall a time when you've been upset or something has happened and your mind has just habitually been going to that, back to that, whether it's a row you'd had or you'd had something negative had happened. So when that aspect of the mind is the mind trying to understand, almost like the mind trying to problem solve. But sometimes there are things we simply cannot problem solve, like what's happening globally at the moment with coronavirus. So when that happens, when we notice that our mind is habitually going to either a worry or a piece of news we've had that was distressing or they're trying to push away, we can notice, and at that time when we notice, we have choice to do something different. This is important because when we chew over difficult memories, it tends to make us sad, angry, guilty, or embarrassed. And a lot of the time when we're doing that in autopilot, we can be thinking of something and our body reacts because of this relationship between our body, our mind, and our brain. And we can find ourselves getting very tense, getting physiological symptoms of anxiety or of distress, simply without being aware of it. The difficulty with this is the more we do that, the more we think about things, the more we feel it, the more negative our thoughts becomes coupled up and becomes a habit, so that the more we do it, the more likely we are to do it, the more it's likely to drop our mood. And then we create this vicious cycle. So in CBT, we tend to think of this as the thoughts, the feelings, body sensations, and the behavior. So this worry, this is thinking about things that might go wrong in future, or rumination, chewing over negative things that have happened, and pushing away, the avoidance, is associated with distress, and if we are in distress for long enough, then this can tip us into depression, or it can tip us into anxiety, or both. So the idea then of mindfulness is by putting our awareness in the present, it allows us to disengage with the emotions, and then it allows us to choose what we want to do with that, and that allows us to choose to do things wisely as opposed to getting into habitual patterns of doing things. So this awareness is key to change, because we can't change what we're not aware of. So once we become aware, then we have choice. But also we can practice. We know that the more we practice things, the more they become familiar, the more we are able to spot. So mindfulness is a skill, whether it's just gently being aware, just being aware that we are eating, being aware that we are walking, being aware that we are taking a shower. And that is very different to what we tend to do, especially when you're in distress, when we do things in autopilot, so that we can make a cup of coffee, drink it, and we haven't noticed because our head has been somewhere else. So this stepping out of automatic pilot is one of the key things really about noticing and anchoring our awareness. So we are going to do another practice, and this is going to be a longer practice. And so again, we're going to do the practice, and then we'll gather back and have a reflection about what did we notice? What did we notice when our mind was gently being pulled somewhere else? Were we able to come back without beating ourselves up or criticizing ourselves? So just by noticing. As we do this practice, I also invite you to bring this attitude of kindness. If you can bring compassion, that would be amazing. But otherwise, just stay with kindness. And sometimes it's very difficult to know when we are being compassionate. But this, just having that intention, just inclining our mind towards this compassion. And one easy way of engaging with compassion is asking yourself, if this was my best friend, would I say that to her? Or another way is to remember a time when somebody has been compassionate to us. We've been upset, somebody has given a hug, or even just touched our arm. Or also bringing a time in mind when you have been compassionate to somebody else. Also brings that, helps us to incline into compassion. And this is because as human beings, we are social beings and we are hardwired for compassion. So we can watch a film and sort of like and find ourselves crying because we've been so feeling and wanting things to be different from that for that person. On the other hand, self-compassion is a little bit harder. That's something we learn as we grow. And what we find is when we are in times of crisis, like at the moment, it becomes much harder because our survival mode takes over. So when we are anxious, it's much more harder for us to tap into that. So with self-compassion, we have to deliberately go out there and practice and invite it and invoke it. And then again, the more we are familiar with it, the more accessible it is. And the more we are able to use the compassion to soothe ourselves when things are difficult. So let's practice. So again, bringing your awareness to your body. And just taking a moment to get into your posture. And if you are comfortable and you're used to sitting on the floor, you can simply sit on the floor with some support. Otherwise, taking time to arrange your chair so that your knees are slightly lower than your hips. With your lower back supported, shoulders down, and your head, the crown of your head facing the ceiling. So chin slightly tucked forward so that the back of your neck is long but relaxed. Again, with your hands resting on your thighs or your knees. And you are going to be sitting for about 10 to 15 minutes. So taking time to make sure that your posture is comfortable and yet upright. Grounding yourself. And again, noticing the contact of your body with the earth. That touch, solid touch of gravity, grounded. Rooting through your feet. Your thighs on the chair. Just exploring with that curiosity of a baby kitten, no judging, not critical, but just simply wanting to know, what does this feel like? So not thinking about it, but really feeling that raw sensation of the body in contact with the ground. In this moment. Remember that whenever your mind wanders and you find yourself away from where you intended to be, that's okay. Congratulate yourself for noticing. That's what mindfulness is. And sometimes as you sit, distressing things that can come to your mind, especially in this time. And if you notice this, gently bringing an attitude of kindness, of compassion. Then when you're ready, returning your awareness to the contact of the body and the ground, the sensations of breath or sounds. So using the present moment to ground your awareness in the now. Remembering that anything that is offered is an invitation. So you can simply choose not to follow the instruction, but to stay in a place that's more comfortable. So for example, if focusing on the breath is problematic for you, that's okay. You can simply stay with the sensations of the contact of the body with the world around. Those neutral, rooted sensations. Knowing that no matter where you are, wherever you are, you're still in contact with the ground, the gravity. Noticing in this posture, your body is like a mountain. The lower half is completely grounded. Gently solid contact of the feet on the ground. Thighs, the chair, your arms on your knees or thighs. So trusting that Mother Earth has got you. So no need for bracing or holding up. You can simply release and allow yourself to let go this moment. Moving your awareness to the contact of your clothes on your shoulders, on the back of your shoulders, front of your shoulders. Maybe noticing the movement of clothes in response to the breath. Signaling that change, constant change. At these moments, feel of my clothes are different to these moments. Now when you're ready, moving your awareness to notice the touch of air on your face. Your arms and hands. Now opening your awareness to take in all the sensations in the body. If you have any difficult sensations, just holding them in that kindly awareness, not wishing to change them, but just allowing them to be just as they are. Now expanding your awareness to the awareness of sounds. Maybe experimenting with taking one sound, staying with it for a few moments, letting it go, choosing another sound. Exploring the physical aspects of sound, the texture, the volume, whether they are far away or close by, whether they are continuous, we come and go. Noticing the tendency of the mind to want to label, to want to name. As much as possible, just staying with it. Felt, sense, the physical sense of the sounds, just the energy of the sounds. So into them. Now letting the forefront of your awareness move to the sensations of breath, wherever you feel the breath most prominently, whether it's the tip of your nose, your throat, your chest, or your tummy. Not changing your breathing, but just noticing the sensations of breath. The cool freshness of the in-breath. The warm release of the out-breath. And as you breathe in, just following the breath all the way from the tip of your nose down to your belly, that area around the belly button. Just allowing your awareness of breath to sit in this area, noticing how your tummy expands with the in-breath, folds in with the out-breath. Maybe noticing the movement of clothes in response to the breath. Aligning your awareness with the column of the breath. Breathing in for the full duration. The pause at the top of the in-breath. Breathing out for the full duration. The pause at the bottom of the out-breath. And if your mind is particularly busy, you could count in the breath and maybe breathing in for a count of 4 Mississippis. Holding it for a count of 4 Mississippis. Breathing out for a count of 4. The pause and starting all over again. And when your mind stops pulling for attention, just returning to simply noticing sensations of the in-breath and of the out-breath. Remembering that you can of course change the duration to suit you. Alternatively, if you feel you're happy and comfortable with the rhythm of the breath, you could simply just count in. Breathing 1, 1, breathing out 1. When you get to 5, returning back to 1. And again, once the mind stops pulling for the attention, then just allowing your awareness to simply sit with the sensations of the breath. You could imagine that this breath you're breathing in is full of kindness and compassion for you. And as you pause, sending that sensation, the kindness, to all the different parts of your body in need of compassion. And as you breathe out, imagining you're releasing anything which does not serve you, so just playing with that. Otherwise, just simply just noticing the sensations of breath. The back ribs expanding out with the in-breath, folding in with the out-breath. And now expanding your awareness, expanding the breath to your whole body breathing. If there are any sensations, breathing softly into them. Breathing from them. As you bring the practice to a close, acknowledging that you've been practicing and setting an intention to practice again. Yes, taking a moment to reflect. What did you notice? So you might be noticing that your mind wandered, then reflecting on what did you notice when it wandered? Were you able to bring your mind back with kindness, or did you notice yourself criticizing yourself as you tend to? Noticing, was there a particular theme that kept on coming to mind? Just reflecting and making, with the reflection, making an intention to maybe next time I'll bring in a bit more softness, I'll be more aware, or just allowing things to be. So part of this reflection is it allows us to know where our mind is going habitually, because usually our mind is going habitually to things that are current and relevant, things that may be worrying for us, or unfinished discussions, unfinished things that have left a little bit of emotional staining. So that allows us then to decide what we want to do about it. And sometimes, especially in a climate like this, it's very difficult to know what to do. And I'd invite you, if you're in that situation, you could simply just journal. Journaling is a way of just taking things from your heart and your head and just putting them out on paper. Sometimes when we write things out, we see them differently. And even if we don't change anything, that process of just allowing our mind to adapt and process information, sometimes that is very, very difficult to process. So earlier we mentioned this tendency of the mind to want to problem solve. And so sometimes when we worry, it can almost feel like it's got a purpose because it feels like we're doing something about it. But we know that science tells us that when we worry, it actually increases our anxiety, and we can tend to believe it feels almost like our thoughts are facts. So for example, with the current crisis, we are all worried that this will go on and never stop. Or we might worry about our loved ones, or we might worry about the country, we might worry about finances. But when we worry a lot and we are worrying in automatic pilot, we can move from A, reality, to Z, which is complete and real. And it feels, so Z would be like the worst catastrophe we can imagine. So we can almost, because you're wearing an automatic pilot, we can do that without realizing that's no fact. So our body will be reacting, so we can find our levels of anxiety shooting up because of what we are thinking. So it's a bit like our body behaving as though we've seen a tiger, but actually there's been no tiger, or this tiger is not dangerous, but our body doesn't know, because evolutionally our brains have evolved to survival. Those scary thoughts get picked up by the parasympathetic nervous system, and our body reacts as though that's the reality. So you can find our heart racing, stomach churning, muscles tense, or feeling quite breathless because of what we've been worrying about. So rumination is the sister of worry. So again, it's this thinking process, but whereas worry is about the future, things that have not happened, what if, rumination is about the past, things that have happened, but we're chewing over it. So it's why, if only. And so when we feel sad, angry, embarrassed, all those emotions are associated with something that has already happened, then we tend to ruminate, so we're chewing over that. And the more we chew over that, the more it increases that emotion. Think of a time when you've had a disagreement with somebody and then you've continued chewing on it. Or when something sad has happened and you've continued thinking about it. The other thing we do is also then, instead of either engaging with it in rumination and worry, is pushing away. So there's worry, rumination, and avoidance. There are other things, so thinking processes we do, for example, comparing ourselves unfavorably and putting ourselves down, self-critical thinking. But these main three are the ones we tend to employ a lot, and especially at the moment when we are bombarded with very, very scary things from the news. So what do we do then when we have a situation that is very scary or very distressing, but we can't do anything about it? So we can look at this distress as a form of grieving. So we are currently faced by a situation that is so beyond what we can experience, what we know, that it threatens. There isn't very much we can do about it other than following the guidelines, which at times for most of us feel so minimal, like we're not doing anything. But trusting that in doing what we've been advised to do, we're doing the best. We can also then take time to allow the grieving process, that mourning that is a natural being. We know even elephants, animals grieve. So seeing it as a natural suffering that allows us then to learn to soothe ourselves. So that aspect of it is, rather than trying to control or managing, is just simply accepting. It is as it is in this moment. So once we acknowledge that, then we can put time aside to allow ourselves to feel, to grieve, especially if you're a caretaker who is looking after children or looking after loved ones who may be in a more vulnerable situation, is carving a little bit of time to put aside, to allow ourselves to grieve and to self-soothe. So we'll be looking at a couple of exercises that we can do to self-soothe. The first step then is stop noticing. So when our mood changes, or we notice that we've been chewing on things, or we notice we're trying to push things out of our mind, or whatever causes us to that, whether we simply put a timer to check in, stop just noticing, acknowledging what is there. What am I feeling? Oh, I feel really anxious. 6 out of 10. Oh, my stomach is in knots. I'm thinking, oh, I was just thinking, what if this happens? So just not acknowledging. Notice we're not acknowledging as in a dismissive way. We are acknowledging it in terms of feelings. For some people, feelings might be more accessible. For others, it might just be the physical sensations. Noticing suddenly you're walking with your shoulders touching your ears, or aches, muscle aches, or stomach churning, or noticing holding your breath, whatever you notice first. For some people, it might be just noticing they've gone into that thinking mode again. So whenever you notice it, that's okay. Just staying with it, giving it homage, acknowledging. And then if you do it, you can decide to put it down and put a time when you can come back to check it. So say you were washing up and you notice your stomach is in knots, and you check in, you catch it, you can decide to put it down, and at 4 o'clock I'll sit down for 10 minutes and I'll allow myself to think about it. So usually when we work with anxiety, we call this we're postponing the worry to a worry time when we can worry. So rather than worrying about it, thinking about it all the time, letting it be in the background, we can choose then to be here in this moment and put the time aside. Notice we are not saying we are not going to come back to it or we are dismissing it. We are acknowledging it. We are choosing simply to put it down. Once we do that, then we can choose. If it's very distressing, we can soothe ourselves. So I invite you then to softly close your eyes and simply just wrap your arms, touching your arms up, just gently, just noticing what that feels like. If you want to, you can extend it to rubbing your hands, your face, back of the neck, or just simply just giving yourself a soft touch, hug. What did you notice? So science tells us that actually human beings, when we are scared, we are social animals, we are social beings. Therefore, that contact helps us to feel that we are part of a bigger pack, we are part of a tribe. We are not alone, because sometimes when we feel scared and we are very alone, that increases our fear. For example, we know we can pick up a baby and soothe a baby without saying something, but it would be really difficult to soothe a baby just by voice without touching. So when we touch our arms, or when we touch us, the brain doesn't know that it's us. So we take that soothing. So with that, you could also build in to imagine somebody who you have a helping relationship with, somebody with your cheerleader, your champion, giving you a hug. You could simply call them to mind. So for me, it might be my grandmother, seeing her smile, seeing her eyes, looking at her and imagining her soothing me. If you have a problematic relationship with somebody, it might not be best to do that, but it doesn't have to be a family member, it can be a teacher, it can be somebody in the news, it can be, another one for me is Mandela. And so choosing somebody who has that soothing effect on you and imagining them giving you some words of wisdom, or just holding them in mind. And a final one is to breathing. The breath is really important because we always have our breath with us, but also because when we get scared and we react, our breath goes very shallow, and that's part of the fight, flight, or freeze response. So by simply changing our breath and introducing a calm breath, it actually again tricks the mind into we are fine. And we are actually, in our essence, even though outside there coronavirus is ravaging my lovely world, in this moment, in this room, I'm safe. So taking a moment to just acknowledge that can allow me to ground myself, to see, so that I can react wisely, so I don't run and watch my, sort of like seek reassurance by watching news mindlessly. I can choose what I'm going to do more wisely according to my values. So self-soothing can take many other things. It might be, having a soak in the bath, some essential oils, wearing something you enjoy, putting on some makeup, dancing to music. So the idea might be just to stop for a moment and reflect on that, and maybe make a list of things that you can do to soothe yourself, but maybe also images or places that you can call on to soothe you. So we talked about how when we notice we're getting upset, we're getting distressed, we can stop, we can acknowledge, we can either bring our mind to what we're doing. So if we're washing up, we might notice the water, the texture of the utensils. Then we might look out of the window and see what we can see, or listen to the sound. So we are rooting ourselves in the present. And we can do that through our senses, what we can feel, what we can see, what we can smell, what we can taste. So in that sense, we can bring it into every aspect of our waking moment. We can ground ourselves in our senses, in the now. Or if it distresses a lot, we can stop. We can take time to soothe ourselves before returning back. So in the next session, we can look at things like, we can do like grounding spaces. We can build on, some of those techniques. But I invite you to just, next time you have a bit of time, just to play with those things. Moving on then, how do we put this practice into meaningful, sustaining experience? So the idea is, we are what we do, not so much what we think. So the more we practice, to begin with, just identifying, what is my intention? How do I want to spend this day? How do I want to spend this week? And maybe jotting it down, making a plan. So we are having to adapt and live our lives in ways we haven't. So it's a new experience. So allowing ourselves to just plan what is within our control. And within that, we know that when we take care of ourselves, our mind, our bodies are really wise, and they heal, they adapt. So to do that, our body needs good nourishment, food, water, sleep, rest. So having good sleep routine, especially in times when our activities are reduced, and having planning our meals so that we're not comfort eating too much or even neglecting that, as well as using our relationships. So even though we may not be seeing people, we can tap into those relationships, can speak to people. Even if we're not in a position to do that, we can journal, we can think about them, we can explore, so we can be in contact with other people without necessarily being. But it's this idea of we are our histories, we are our memories. We can explore, we can choose where to park our mind, and we can choose what to grow. So maybe taking time then with an activity diary. This is usually a diary that goes time slots, when you're awake, from the moment you wake up, and planning what you're going to be doing. And within that, then you can build in things that you find pleasurable, things that you're good at, as well as particular time to allow yourself to think about what is going on, to grieve, to self-soothe, to worry. Okay. So remember, it's practiced with kindness, with compassion, curiosity of a baby kitten. And as much as possible, when we notice we've been self-critical, self-judgments, putting those down and allowing and just normalizing that it's a difficult time for every one of us. We're in this together.